Hey everybody, welcome back to the 152nd episode of Taps and Patience. I'm AJ with Subtract Manufacturing and Audacity Micro, here with Harrison of Precision Ingenuity. Hi Harrison.
How we doing?
I normally do that in 2 breaths, and I did it in 1 breath, so slightly lightheaded, but otherwise good.
Oh man. Well, that's good. How you been?
Busy. I have been very busy.
Same.
I kind of have all of the deadlines being right now is basically what's happened to me. And I don't know, I got as much done as I could early, but I scheduled more than I had time for in a realistic schedule. So now I'm playing catch up.
I took the first Sunday off I've taken off in probably like 2 or 3 months.
I would say nice, but it's nice that you got this Sunday off, but it is not nice that you haven't been able to have them off.
Yeah, and I might regret that later, but we'll see. Because I got an email on Saturday from one of my customers that was like a rush order. They're like, make this order your top priority. And it's like, I probably should have gone in for that, but I was not planning on going in. And so we'll see what happens this next week.
Yeah, sometimes life just comes first and it is what it is.
Yeah. So, and we'll do it the best we can. So I don't even know and I probably wouldn't even be able to do them because I don't know if we have the material for it anyways. Like we might have to order a material. So,
yeah.
But other than that, it's been good. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Sure. So I'm trying to remember what I did last week. Last week was a long time ago. I know that February ended up being a record for Audacity, or was very near it. I didn't crunch the actual numbers, but really close to record in terms of both revenue and profit. And I don't want to say it wasn't without a huge amount of effort, because there was a lot of effort. Like there was a lot of time thrown. My days were very saturated. We'll say it that way. But a large portion of that day saturation was going to teaching. So I really was and Subtract for that matter. So for Audacity, I was really probably only getting in at best 20 or 30 hours, maybe 40 hours in a week. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I have no sense of time anymore. But with that, I broke records that I was doing when I was working on it full time.
Nice.
So my systems are getting dialed. My processes are good. I've had good parts to make too. Lots of rings, lots of round, like little circular plastic parts, kind of bread and butter Audacity stuff. I did screw up pretty majorly on some parts that I had actually made before. It was a repeat job. It was the job that has these slots in them that are 10 thou wide and 1/4 inch deep.
Mm-hmm.
And I this was actually an X-word job. It came up as a repeat offer. The money was really good on it. I had the materials, I had the tooling, so I thought, and it was like, okay, I can just knock this out. Last time I did it, I just did it in, I think, my normal, probably the Haas vise, like a traditional 6-inch vise. This time I was doing it on the not a fifth axis, so I thought it'd be pretty quick and easy to knock out. But 1, I learned a quirk of fusion, and 2, I was impatient, and I ended up, like, to make those slots that are 10 thou wide and 25 times deep, I use a slitting saw, and that'd be miserable with an Endmill. I broke a couple saws on it, and I had to next day air in saws, not once, but twice.
Oh, man.
The first time, well, I'm trying to get order of operations here. Wow, I don't even remember which one was which. I know at one point I was just being impatient and trying to speed it up too much, and I pushed my speeds and feeds too high, and that broke the sauce. The other time was a fusion quirk that I had never seen before.
Okay.
And so I'm using this little 10 thou thick saw, and so I'm doing just a ton of passes, a ton of really, really shallow passes. I think I was doing like 5 thou depths of cut when I wasn't being impatient. So a ton of 5 thou depths of cut. It was, I don't know, what's 25 or 250 divided by 0.05. So it needed 50 passes with that saw. So I went into the Fusion toolpath and I told it to do 50 roughing passes. And that should be right. Actually, technically, that should even be one pass too many because the roughing passes, like it does the normal pass and then it does 50 more. So it was taking 51 5 thou passes. So that should be more than a 1/4 inch, right?
I'm going to go yes for simplicity's sake.
You know that little box that says smoothing deviation that's right below?
Mm-hmm.
So that smoothing deviation box, I have just always ignored. I have never once used that on the 2D contour for a toolpath. And there was some default value in it. I think it was 4 thou.
That's a lot. 4 thou is a lot.
It is a lot. I've never messed with it though, because it's just like, I don't know, some smoothing on the profile or something. But it turns out that it like, however Fusion is doing that toolpath, it was like subtracting the smoothing deviation from my step over. And it was not actually taking 4 thou passes. It was taking like 1 or 2 thou passes. And because of that, it was cutting way too deep on the first pass. And that doesn't make my sauce.
That doesn't make sense.
I know it doesn't make sense. I'd never seen it before.
Well, I guess it depends on your geometry. What did your geometry look like?
It was a straight line.
It was a straight line?
I think it was because of the lead-in. I think there was something going on with the smoothing and the lead-in where it was smoothing out the lead-in, so it was a little bit shallower.
And then it was just bunching them all up together?
It was bunching them all up together at the end. So the first pass was like, I don't know, it was a lot.
So when you disabled smoothing, it worked?
It worked exactly as expected.
Interesting.
And it actually showed up like the
did the simulation show you the
little blue lines were showing accurately with the smoothing deviation, and the simulation did simulate correctly. But I did not like step through it in slow motion. Like I just, turned up the speed and hit go to make sure there wasn't anything, showing up as red in the comparison.
But like, did it show them bunched up where the first one was a big bite in the simulation?
It showed up as it posted.
Okay.
But I mean, like the toolpath looked exactly like I expected it to, and I watched the simulation sped up, and so there was nothing like there was no obvious.
You didn't see that first bite take a bigger bite than everything else?
Yeah, I just didn't notice it was taking a really big bite at the beginning. Like that's a very specific thing to check for. So yeah, well, I don't know. Lost a couple saws that way.
If I'm taking a whole bunch of passes, because I do that with some of my toolpaths, I always try to watch the first couple into the material slow, and then I'll speed through and then watch the last ones at the end.
Yeah, that would have saved me.
Because I've done enough stuff with high step over counts, depending on what I'm doing, be it broaching or using a high feed end mill to clear out a slot or engraving. Like I do enough stuff that can have a high step over count with a really small step down that I'll typically watch those first few passes and then speed it up and then see the last few.
That would have helped.
Yep.
But oh well, that job's done now.
Lesson learned. Move on.
Yeah. Other than that, the name of the game has been threading holes that are far, far too deep for the size of the thread. But it's been in plastic, so it's been not the worst thing ever. Parts that are, I don't know if it's...
Are you using a thread mill or a tap?
Box right there. I'm actually using a tap. Okay. The ones that are in that box have a M2.5 thread that's 50 millimeters deep in acrylic. Acrylic, not polycarbonate. And then the parts I'm working on now, they're basically just standoffs. And they have a number 2 thread that, like, the shallowest one is like half an inch, and they go up to like just a little over an inch. And those are Ultim. So
Good deal. Something singing to you over there?
my daughter's 3D printer just sung a song. It was very happy about the pile of spaghetti that it made, apparently.
Time to eat.
Yeah.
Dinner is served.
So subtract. That was a terribly constructed sentence. We have subtract news that I don't think I've told you yet.
Okay.
We brought on a third founder, a third person in the founding team. So before it was me and Jacob, but we have added Josh. So Josh Layton, he's one of our Patreons because apparently that's how we find everyone related to Subtract. He came on to kind of take over sales. And I am so very excited for that because it is something that I am not very good at. Jacob is much better at it than I am, but he's been busy doing the technical stuff. And we really needed help in that department. And it's kind of like the main function of Subtract.
Mm-hmm.
Like our big, sales pitch to our shop is like, we bring you work. Turns out if you're not good at sales, then it's hard to bring you work or hard to bring our shops work.
Yep.
So having someone that's good at that, and Josh seems to be at this point. He still obviously doesn't know all of our systems and stuff yet, but talking to him, he seems like a fairly competent salesperson. He sold me on him, so
that's exciting.
He'll probably be able to sell people on parts. We could very easily double in size in a short period of time here, thanks to him. So February was a really good month for us. We didn't quite tie our record that we set in December, but it was good. January would have been our best month before that December month happened. So it would have been like the best month of 2025. Now it feels kind of slow. Like it was we went from what would have been a record month feeling like a slow month in a very short period of time. And I expect that we will double at least once in 2026, if not twice, in terms of revenue. So
that usually means you're doing something right.
I think I've said this before. This is the only business that I've started that doesn't feel like it's fighting me. Like, it's the only problems that I have had recently with Subtract is I am doing too many other things, and Subtract needs my time, and I have had not enough time to give it. I'm finishing up a class here that will be my last night class.
Mm-hmm.
And the night classes are the ones that are really a time sucker because it's 4 days a week. And it's like I end up teaching I end up being at the school for about 5 hours. But it takes me between like an hour and 45 minutes to get there. And most of the time it's just an hour. But because I can't be late, I basically always have to leave an hour and 45 minutes before my class. And so then if there's no traffic, I'm at school 45 minutes early where I could be here making parts or whatever. So it basically turns into an 8-hour day when you factor driving there, driving back.
Yeah.
And it like trying to do that plus also make parts with Audacity plus also work on Subtract was a nightmare.
A lot. Yeah.
Also, I just finally got paid by the school for the first time this year. It took them like 8 weeks to get me paid for dumb payroll reasons. So I was working like 40 hours a week for free and then keeping myself afloat with Audacity while also trying to get Subtract off the ground. So I have just been like dying for this last couple of months here. But with the night classes being done, I guess it's still 2 weeks. It'll be the 19th will be my last day teaching the night classes, and then I still have a few of the like traditional apprentice classes during the day over the next year. I'll do those until the end of the year. But that'll be like 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. In April, all of April, I'm doing one of those classes, but it's only 3 days a week. So that'll kind of interweave with Subtract a little bit better. And my driving to teaching ratio is much better on those. So they're more worth my time. But I don't know. It's nice to be able to kind of start focus. Well, it will be nice. It hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping it'll be nice to kind of start focusing on Subtract more. Jacob will be a little bit more happy with me. Jacob has been a little unhappy with me because I've been not doing as much Subtract as I need to be.
So if you're not doing sales or the technical side, what is going to be your focus going forward?
So my job is to work on the product. So that means making sure we have good systems in place for the shops. It means working with shops, onboarding new ones or finding new ones. Actually, Jacob handles the logistics of actually onboarding them. But it's all about what makes the parts that we ship good. That's my job. So systems, we just published our quality system. We just like our quality requirements. We just published our inspection report requirements, and our shipping requirements. Like those are all neatly laid out now. And those are some stuff that's kind of similar to our big blue friend. Quite a few of them are quite a bit stricter, and quite a few of them give the shop a lot more freedom. So like our packaging requirements are much less specific. It's like, make sure it looks good and make sure they get there safely. And how you do that, that's up to you.
Can it be used boxes with other people?
No
with
used
other
boxes.
With
Sorry,
other
EJ.
companies' names on them?
No, all new boxes is a rule. You're allowed to reuse brown paper. Because I do that anyway. I reuse all of my brown paper right there. I've never bought a roll of brown paper for shipping things. But yeah, it has to be all new boxes. We're not providing tape or anything like that. We looked into it, but the costs are dumb for this stage. We give a couple suggestions, like on the shipping guidelines. I give a link to the Uline products that I use and I know that work. Like this is the tape that I know sticks, and I know it doesn't stop sticking if it gets cold. And here's the bubble wrap size I like, and here's the plastic bags that I like, and here's the little like packing slip thingies. But those aren't requirements. I think we do have a requirement of a double walled box after like 25 pounds. If it's smaller, I don't know. It's all the kind of normal stuff that you would expect. But again, we leave it up to shops to do whatever they think gets will get the parts there safely. Then you have like our quality stuff, which is again kind of more specific and less specific than Xometry. Our quality requirements are a lot higher than basically all of our competitors, but that's our thing. Like, that's our product. Like Xometry is a different business than us. Xometry does a really good job of making buying parts really easy, and they have so many shops that they can do a lot of different things. We have a couple extra steps in the buying process because we don't have like automated quoting. You're still talking to a human, which is both a pro and a con depending on your type of business. But we deliver better parts.
So what makes you confident you deliver better parts? Like give me an example.
There's a few things. Our like standard finish requirements and stuff like that are much higher. We are much less forgiving about defects. We don't have a quality score where you're allowed to miss so many parts per quarter or whatever. Like basically with us, you need to be on your A game all the time, or you will not be working with Subtract anymore. The I lost my train of thought there. One thing we do is we do allow the shops to communicate with the customer, which doesn't sound like a quality thing, but it is, because their reputation is on the line too. And they also get to, clarify things with the customer, like, is this okay? Is this not okay? But like with Xometry is a great place to learn how to start up your shop, or like to learn when you're just getting started, because your name and your reputation isn't tied to your parts at all.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, when I was first starting off, I definitely shipped some stuff that I would never ship now. Whereas Subtract is not the place for that, because one, your reputation is on the line. And two, again, there's very little grace for shipping defects from us.
Is there grace at all?
Yes, I'm a strong believer in grace. But we would give everybody one opportunity. I'm sure you could find a way. I shouldn't say it would be impossible to get kicked out by shipping one bad part. There's a way, I'm sure. But after that, you're on the line. I think a second job shipped with parts out of spec, and you're off the network. There are levels of this, and there are limits, and like, we're humans and we look at this, with some understanding of how the process works.
Mm-hmm.
There's shipping bad parts knowingly, and there's shipping bad parts unknowingly. We had one incident where we had parts that were shipped out of spec. The customer did not reject them; they accepted them, but the shop inspected them with them hot, and then when they arrived at the customer, they were obviously not hot, and they were like 4/10 oversized or something, like, or undersized or something like that. And on that one, it's like, you need to be careful and watch this in the future, and we'll pay attention to this stuff. But like, I don't really count that as a strike. I don't know if I want to talk about this, but we had parts that were shipped from one shop to another shop. So it was a kind of an internal job.
Mm-hmm.
And those parts aesthetically did not look good when they were delivered. They were well below our quality standards. And the shop said something when they sent the parts that made us real, like in retrospect, it was like he knew they were not good and he sent them anyway. And that very nearly got him kicked off the network immediately. So, again, I am a believer in grace. Our quality systems and our quality standards at that point were fairly informal. And so, I have to take responsibility for that. I can't really blame everything on him. It was us not doing a good job of making our expectations clear. And fortunately, the parts did not go to an outside customer.
Do you have any sort of taking photos of all the parts that are shipped or documenting them in that manner?
Yes. So we do ask for pictures of everything that ships. We do not review the pictures, which we could. And that was maybe a mistake, because it did show up in the pictures.
And what about like Xometry will have a virtual QC sometimes, depending on what the parts are, where you have to record your measurements and show that you have confidence before you send it out. Otherwise, your feet will be held to the fire. Do you have anything along those lines?
Our standard quality requirements are similar to the Xometry VQC requirements. We just don't ask the shops to hold until our approval is sent. Like, our inspection requirements are basically Xometry's VQC requirements, like what we expect in a report and everything.
Okay.
But again, right now we don't have anything in place where we would review before we allowed the shops to send. And I don't know if we would want to, because like we don't work with amateur shops. And like, I trust every shop on our network completely.
What do you do with the information that they record? Do you store it on a server?
Stick it on the job, and it goes into SERP and hangs around.
Does any of that make it to the customer?
The inspection reports ship with the parts.
Okay.
So the inspection reports, material certs, any other paperwork. Oh, and a certificate of compliance go with every job.
Okay.
Well, excuse me. Material test reports do not go with every job unless the job is over $2,000 or it is requested by the customer.
Mm.
So the little small jobs don't get them. But anything bigger than that does get certs.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
But anyway, that is all to say, with Josh coming on, I think Subtract's going to grow a whole lot. And I think I'm going to get a lot busier in the near future.
Good problem to have.
And my intern should be starting soon.
Man, you're just hiring people left and right.
That's kind of been a hobby of mine recently. I bet your payroll's more.
Probably.
Because Josh is coming in as a founder. He's not coming in as an employee. We don't technically have any full-time employees at Subtract. We have, kind of our founding team, and then, Scott
intern.
works a couple hours on design. We have Pablo, who does social media a couple hours a week. The intern will be Audacity, not Subtract.
Oh, okay.
So, although that being said, the point of the intern is to test out what I've been calling the Subtract manufacturing system, basically as just a way to make sure that our processes are good and before we release them to the shops. So like the quality system and stuff, I've been testing in my own shop for a couple months now. But we want to start providing, again, not requirements to our shops because they're good. They know what they're doing. They can do whatever they want. But some systems that they could just adopt and put in place. For example, the one I've been talking about for months and not actually finished yet would be the tool library system. I'm sure every single one of our shops has a good tool library, but if a shop didn't, or a shop was getting ready to come work for Subtract, they could just adopt our own tool library, and then it would be a 1-for-1 with our quoting via Toolpath, because that's the library we quote with. So
fair enough.
I've been accused of selling or trying to sell Subtract too much in these podcasts. Do you think we hit our quota? Oh, Jacob's going to slide me a 10 underneath the table.
Well, I also know people like to hear the inner workings of what's going on with Subtract. So it's cool to hear, people, I assume, like to hear the story of our businesses growing, and Subtract has become a bigger part of your growth than Audacity. So when we're talking about what's going on with our weeks, probably more of it's going to be focused around Subtract than Audacity these days. Because if I asked you what was going on with Audacity, you'd say, I made a couple parts, but I was busy with teaching and Subtract.
Yeah, pretty much. Again, that being said, I've made a ton of parts with Audacity recently, mostly because the school wasn't paying me yet. But they've I haven't had any horror stories. They've just gone really smoothly. I'm working on a job now that, again, the actual manufacturing has been smooth. I've just run out of time because I've been trying to do too many things. But no drama in actually making the parts. The only thing, the biggest piece of drama is my drill is wandering, and so I spot drilled it. Oh, actually, and then I ran another part and the drill still wandered and I was confused. Then I realized that I was drilling the hole and then spot drilling and then tapping.
Gotcha.
So turns out that's not an effective strategy. You should spot drill first.
I mean, I honestly never spot drill. for almost everything that I do. But I have carbide short drills most of the time that are pretty
This was
rigid.
a very cheap high-speed steel drill.
Yeah, okay. I would definitely spot drill in that instance for
Yeah.
sure.
And actually, I say spot drill. That's not even true. What I'm doing is I'm drilling like 1 diameters deep with a carbide drill, and then I'm coming back with the high-speed steel drill just because my carbide drill isn't long enough.
Gotcha.
It's like it's a PCB drill, so it's only like half an inch long, and this part is like an inch and 25 thou, something like that long. So I bought a cheap high-speed steel bit, and
Yeah.
it was wondering.
One of the parts that I'm running right now, or fixing to start run production on, I had to do a first article run with, and my first parts did not pass. Which that's a good situation, kind of talking about quality and whatnot. These were parts that needed to be run on our CMM, but the timeline was incredibly crunched, and Weston was on vacation at the same time that I needed to send the parts off to get anodized. So we could only CMM inspect them when he got back and after anodized. So there was not enough time to make new parts.
Mm-hmm.
And so we sent the parts anyways, and we said, hey, for first article inspection, we don't, we're measuring that things are not passing. Here's them for you to look at, and then you can run your inspections and you can see if you get the same results that we did. And then we made a second batch, which I should be getting in tomorrow. But one of the parts or one of the features on that was a flat bottom hole, and it was my first time using a flat bottom drill. In that type of environment, and it was walking quite substantially.
On entry or in the cut?
On entry.
Okay.
But
that kind of makes sense because it's not pointy.
Yes. And one of the things that I did was I was able to catch that with gauge pins, that it was walking and wallowing out the hole. And so what I did is I left more stock on top of the hole where it could kind of plunge, find center, and then keep going down. But what that was doing is when it found center, it wasn't necessarily, or when it finally tightened up to the right diameter, it wasn't necessarily in the right location. And the way that they were checking that hole basically required a CMM to know its location based off of the planes that they had selected. And Weston is our CMM expert, and I have not programmed in the CMM at all. And so it was kind of a learning experience on both of our parts, where Weston really should have wrote the program before he left, and as much as he could to where I could have run them. But it was kind of trying to put the cart in front of the horse. And like, if you don't have the parts to actually check it, it's kind of hard to write the program. And anyways, there's a lot of learning experiences on those parts, but thankfully the customer was extremely happy. What's really funny is that we sent the parts off to that customer, and they have a whole CMM inspection department, and we got a call from their head CMM programmer or QC guy, and he was thrilled with our work. And so even though we technically failed, like on our first articles, he was really happy and excited with the work that we were doing. And I think it's because we bought the CMM primarily for this company. And so the fact that, we were trying to do that and we were trying to help him out, like, he was ecstatic with what we were doing. So I just got to keep him happy.
So did you ever figure out how to keep those drills from wandering? You just added more material?
I had to pre-drill with a carbide drill.
Okay.
So that's yeah. So after we did the first parts, I remade some more, and I did a semen inspection before they went to anodize. And now that they're back, we're going to do another round, because another problem that I ran into that I wasn't expecting, I should have, but I didn't think of it, was how much anodizing adds to the part. And so I had a lot of dimensions that were like, they had a tight range, and after anodizing, it grew or shrunk features just on the edge or outside of that range. And so I should have machined more or less depending on the feature to account for the anodizing, adding material.
How thick was the anodizing, out of curiosity?
It added about 1 thou.
Okay.
For type 3. So they said,
like on one surface it added 1 thou, so your hole became 2 thou smaller,
Yes,
or your holes became 1
2
thou
thou.
smaller.
2 thou.
Okay,
So holes 2 thou. All your walls grew by 1 thou. So
it is good to know.
and they said that I called and talked to the anodizing company afterwards, which I should have done before. That's on me. And they said that they typically shoot for, with their type 3 anodizing, 7/10 to 1 thou. So what they shoot for a thickness of, what was it? For 1.4 to 2 thou total depth, and half of that depth is into the part and the other half is,
yeah.
And so it ends up being anywhere from 7/10 to 1 thou. And I think the ones we got were a little bit thicker, because I think it added about 1.1 or 1.2 thou total thickness, because it shrunk up the holes by about 2.2 to 2.4 thou, somewhere in that range. So, which blew past some of the tolerances on some of those holes. So, it's a little bit weird, because we inspected them with the exact same program we wrote. Like, I checked them with the program we wrote for after anodizing, which means a lot of the dimensions that I inspected actually came back as faileds, because the anodize hasn't been done. So we're going to need to make 2 programs, one for pre-anodize and one for post-anodize. So we're going to have to account for all those thicknesses. We didn't have time to do it for it on these parts, but going forward, I'm going to have to make 2 different programs to check pre and post, with just the same program, just different tolerance ranges. So
I have only ever shipped customer parts that were titanium anodized, and those were not particularly high tolerance. So I've never like shipped a normal like anodized aluminum part to a customer.
Yeah. Well, we've done normal aluminum anodized parts in the past, but typically, the customer's taking care of anodizing, and so we just make it to their print, and then they account for that in their print. Or B, they've been low tolerance parts where the anodizing wasn't enough to knock anything out of adjustment. So this is my first combination of anodized tight tolerance parts where the anodizing itself can throw parts out of whack. And so that was kind of my 2 biggest fails on this part, was the holes tightening up, and then the flat bottom drill kind of got me. So thankfully they're all easy things to fix. And so the customer is very understanding.
How deep is the flat bottomed hole?
This is a pretty tiny part, and so it was probably between 1/8 and 1/4 inch, somewhere in that range.
And what was the diameter?
Diameter was about 1/8 inch.
Okay.
So it's about a 1.5 times D hole.
And you didn't just interpolate that?
Well, it was in a very where it was. You'd have to have a 12 times D 1/16 inch tool to do it and have a flat bottom hole.
That's one of my standard tools. But yeah, well, I get it. It would be slow.
Well, it's slow. It's in a production environment. And so if I can make the flat bottom drill work, it'll save a lot of time, because I'm going to end up making 15 to 20,000 of these a year if everything goes smooth. So, and I already am using a 1/16 inch long reach. It's a 7 times D, and I didn't want to have a second 1/16 that was like a 10 or 12 times D to be able to get that hole. It's much easier just to get that flat bottom drill to go do it.
Yeah, it would take forever with an Endmill.
Yeah. So
though you could do like if it's an 1/8 inch hole, 2.5 millimeter Endmills I found are good for interpolating those, and that wouldn't be as crazy of a stick out. But yeah, flat bottom drill.
Yeah. So yeah, the flat bottom drill goes super fast, and I've been using AI more and more to like double check feeds and speeds and things, and it's been incredibly helpful to like
just like straight ChatGPT, not Toolpath or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Just being like, hey, I'm using these speeds and feeds. This is happening. What would you recommend I try? And it gives me a list of, recommendations to try. And I'll kind of use that in combination with my experience to kind of make tweaks. And it's been really good. Like there are some times where it completely misses the mark. But like on flat bottom drills, I was struggling and I asked it some questions and it gave me some really good answers. I was like, oh, I didn't think of that. And makes complete sense. I just wasn't thinking about it. And so, now I know what to do. So,
Yeah, I used the ChatGPT coding tool for the first time the other day, and I had done coding with ChatGPT before, where it would basically it was just all there in the prompt, and you'd be like, "Give me a Python script that will be a calculator or whatever," and it would just spit it out in line. Then you'd go back to it, and you'd be like, well, make it blue, and you'd go back and forth like that, and you'd copy paste everything into VS Code. Well, they have a new tool that is a little bit more modern where you basically sync it with a GitHub repo and it just does everything.
cool.
You have to push the changes to the GitHub, and then pull them down to VS Code and hit go. But with the old way of doing it, the way I used to do it, it would forget what it was doing because it didn't have enough context to be able to understand your whole project. And so if you had a project that was, remotely complicated, you'd have to break it up into 15 different files that each did their own specific thing, and then have it only look at one of those files at a time. And you'd still kind of have to do, the higher level architecting to make it all work. Yeah, that's just gone now. It just does it. It's great.
Yeah.
So I've been playing with a couple AI tools recently. There's one called Comfy UI, which is not a coding tool. It's like a block flow chart pipeline kind of diagram. It's mostly used for image generation, and you can link different tools together. So you could be you could have it be like ChatGPT come up with a story, and then you could pipe that story into some another chat bot, and it splits it goes through and it finds 10 different images for that story, like the chapter art. So I'm going to come up with a description of the chapter art, and then it runs the chapter art through an image generator, and gives you your 10 image generations or whatever. It's a way of automating and linking things together.
That's cool.
If you saw the Corridor Crew video where they did anime rock, paper, scissors.
Yep. I saw that one.
That one cool. I believe they used Comfy AI or something similar to it. Or Comfy UI or something similar to it.
Which they just put out a new AI video.
Yes.
With
on
the
their
green
screens.
Yeah.
I don't know what they used for that one, but it would have been a very similar tool.
Yeah, that one was super cool.
But I've been kind of tinkering with ways to get an AI to take a drawing and look for things on it that a shop might miss or I might miss during quoting. So it's not doing anything fancy. It's not trying to model the part. It's looking for tolerances and threads. And it would just give it to me in a list. So it would say, hey, dummy, there's a plus or minus 1/10 call out here, or there's a triple aught 120 thread here. Just pay attention to these things when you're quoting it, dummy. And I realized it was completely the wrong tool to do that. It was the moral of that story. So then I started playing with the ChatGPT coding tool. And I spent hours playing with this Comfy UI thing, linking blocks together. And I just wrote a quick prompt and hit go. And the coding tool built everything. It was great. So I'll probably use that for a lot more things. And by a lot more things, I mean, I will make a crappy version of them with ChatGPT, and then I'll send them to Jacob, and then Jacob will make them good. I think I've done all the playing I'm going to on that tool for now. But for Subtract and part of the Subtract production system, I want to have a tool to track material certs since we're requiring those with our vendors. And so I want to build just like a little tool that tracks all of your materials and your remnants and stuff. And I'm just going to do that in the ChatGPT code thing.
Fair enough. Speaking of like certifications and whatnot, we had our stage 2 audit last week.
Oh yeah, tell me about that.
So we had
I hear it didn't upset you at all.
Yeah. The guy came out and Weston was freaking out about the audit, and it ended up going really good. Like overall, it went really good. The guy was, he was someone who's been in the industry for like since its founding, since they were using rocks and stones to machine parts. Just a long history and of working with lots of different aerospace companies, and so it's kind of cool seeing like hearing a little bit about his background. But it also meant that he was a big stickler on a lot of things, and
it's literally his job.
It is his job, but I feel like he would interpret everything by the strictest letter of the law in such a way that like to an absurd extent. And so the best example that I can give of this is like every piece of equipment in your shop that if you take a measurement with a piece of equipment, it has to be certified. It doesn't matter what that measurement is used for. So for example, if I'm saw cutting parts at the in our shop to be used at a later date for other parts, whatever we use to measure those saw parts has to be NIST traceable or certified. And it's stuff like that where like I plugged it into AI. I'm like, does my material need to be measured by, NIST tools? And AI is like, no. But this guy's like, yes. And it's like stuff like that, where it's just like, okay, does this actually need to be this level? And I think he's just used to working with shops with thousands of people, and he doesn't want any chance of ambiguity. Like he basically said, hey, anything that's labeled for reference has to be kept in its own location separate from anything else in the shop. And it's like, okay, well, then how do you use for reference stuff? He's like, well, you just don't. I'm like, well, then what's the point of it?
Then why do you have the stickers?
Yeah, I mean, like, and he's like, well, he's like, what happens if someone accidentally grabs something that's for reference and uses it? I was like, well, that's a personnel problem. That's a training problem. But like, in his mind, no, it's got to go into completely different like building basically. And it's like, well, then why even have it? So there was just stuff like that was just like really frustrating. It's like, listen, if we're inspecting a customer's part, I understand that anything that is used to validate measurements on a customer's parts has to be done. But that doesn't apply to every single thing we're doing in the shop. And so, yeah, it's just a little frustrating. But I get what he's saying. And sometimes I just got to hold my tongue. Because part of it is him being a stickler for the rules, and part of it is whenever he's coming through, he has to point things out. He can't not find something wrong. And so
that's his job, is to find things that are wrong.
Yeah. And so he is going to keep digging until he finds something wrong. And in our case, we ended up with 3 minor violations. You can have minor or major. If you have a major violation, he has to fly back out and you have to start the process all over again from the ground zero. If you have minor violations, then he will document them, and we have 60 days to get them fixed and submitted to him. But he recommends that we only do it in 30 days, because that gives him another 30 days to confirm. And if there's any back and forth, there's time to do back and forth. And so he recommends that in less than 30 days, we have all that submitted to him. And then if he approves that, then it goes to his boss. And if his boss approves everything that he's done up to that point, then we're certified. So in theory, as long as we can knock out these few things, which some of them are like really stupid and simple. So like I'll give you uh, one of our minor violations as like an example. Our CMM. Our CMM has a sticker on it that says it was calibrated at this date. We have a digital record from Hexagon that says it was certified at a different date. And then we have a certification date in ProShop that's different from either of those two. All three of them are well within spec, or well within, like the machine is certified. Like even if you go by the one that's the furthest date back, the machine is still certified. So that's why it's a minor violation.
But they don't match.
And so we need to figure out which date is the one that we're using and get it updated on and across everything to show that it's accurate to this date, so we know when it needs to be done next. And I agree with that one. That one makes sense to me. Like, okay, yeah, that's a minor thing that definitely we need to fix, but it's the machine is in spec and it has been calibrated recently. So but yeah, there's other things that are just like 2 out of the 3 ones were like really simple and just we could get fixed and I agreed with. And then I think one of them was just like, okay, whatever. We'll do it, but I don't understand.
Yeah. Is this how often do you have to recertify once you get the certification?
So for ASME, so are you talking about their inspection tools or are you talking about the actual
like which one are you getting? AS 9000?
ASME 91,000 or AS 91,000.
Okay. So how often do you have to get rechecked off on that?
So every year you have to have a spectator, and every 3rd year you have to have someone come on site like they just did for stage 2.
Okay. So observed once a year, audited every 3 years.
Every 3 years.
Okay.
And the observed one can be digital. Like they could go over just all your file.
Here's my security cameras.
No, not like that. Like that's where the audit comes and checks in person. The observer observes your processes, your documentations, your training. Like they observe all the digital footprints of everything you're doing to make sure you're doing everything correctly.
Remote audit.
Yeah, it can be done remotely. Yes.
Interesting.
So if you have a full digital system, it can be done remotely. If you have a paper trail, that will have to come on site. So that one can be done either in person or remotely, depending on how your systems are structured. Like they're not actually going onto the shop floor and actually picking up your equipment and making sure that it was, inspected and has all that stuff. Like that's what this guy did. He went through and looked at every single machine, looked at everything that we were doing, checked to make sure we didn't have things in the places they weren't supposed to be, make sure that everything's labeled, stuff like that. So, and like some of it was like semantics, which was so dumb. Like, we have material, and we have material that's been certified and material that hasn't been. And because we're just now getting AS 9100, we have a lot of old material that like doesn't have, we weren't tracking the certs at that point.
Yeah.
And so our shop is really small. We don't have a whole lot of space to physically separate those two types of material. So on our racks, we have dividers and we go certified material on this side, uncertified or out of spec or out of scope is what we called it, material on this side. And so he didn't like that. And he's like, we had, big red labels that said, this is out of scope material. And he's like, you guys really need big red labels that say, for fixtures only or something like that. I'm like, out of scope, for fixtures. Like we've got it all labeled and separated. Like, like we're going to rip off one label with different words and put on a different label. And he's like, oh, I just don't like out of scope. He's like, it needs to be, for fixtures only or for this or for that. And it's just like, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
So, how are you tracking your materials to your certs? Because again, this is a problem I want to solve in the near future here.
So we print out labels on all the material that we bring in, and we attach a material number and a purchase order number to that material, and we print out a label and we stick it on that material. And then you can look at that material in ProShop at any point. You can see how much of that material we have on hand, what it cost, who we bought it from, and all of our documents associated with that material. We scan in with a scanner and attach it to that purchase order. So if there's heat treats or material certs or anything that comes in paper form with that job when it's dropped off, that all gets scanned in and digitally connected to that material. And then whenever we use that material for a job, you will connect that material to that job so that you know that material was applied to that job.
So the actual material itself just gets a barcode, basically?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay. Are you just printing those off on like a zebra label printer kind of thing?
Yeah, something like
that. Can you be more specific? I'm curious on your exact actual. Are you using just like normal shipping label kind of labels? Are they special labels?
No, I'm using let me look here real quick.
Oh wait.
I'm using like a
I was too slow.
What is it called? Like a Brother label printer.
Okay.
Like ones that actually they're not. It's the ones where you can have like any length size, and it's got you can cut the. Oh, what is?
Like a label maker?
Yeah, like a label maker. Not
like where you type. So you're typing in the numbers manually.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are pretty durable labels if it's like the one I have.
Yes. It's like the plastic labels that are like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like the process that we have is when the material comes in, you type all that out, and then you take some acetone or alcohol wipes and you wipe down the material where you're going to stick them to, and you try to stick them on the side of it to where it's facing out. And if that side is too small, then you put it on the edge all the way to one end, and we have all the labels facing the same direction, and you saw cut from the opposite side of the label. Okay. So that the material is always labeled all the way down till it's a tiny little bar, and then it goes into the out of scope for fixtures, whatever material. It comes out of that and over to there. And even though we're not tracking it at that point, if it's still got that label on it, we could still track it if we needed to. But it's in the wrong section of storage at that point. We've taken it out of our system and put it over there.
So let's say, I don't know, the piece of material you got was too long to fit on your shelf neatly, so you chopped it in half.
Both of them will get a label.
Both of them get the same label?
Yes.
Okay. And does ProShop know like your remnant size or anything like that?
ProShop, it knows total length ordered to a PO. So if I ordered 5 sticks and they were all 12-foot sticks, it would know the total length ordered to that one PO. It wouldn't know that there was 5 sticks.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the way we did it, you can structure it different ways. It could know that there was 5 sticks, but we are tracking it by the length.
That makes sense.
So we're giving it a total length. We're saying we ordered in, 5 sticks at 144 inches each. So whatever that math is for the total length, that's how many inches we bought, and then we label each stick.
Okay. The way I was planning on doing it, and this is all just ideas in my head, nothing that's actually been done yet, but I was going to automatically generate labels for every remnant. And you could, the software would keep track of all of the different materials you have, all the different orders, with the material test reports and everything there. And then you could have a button that's like generate label, and then you could connect that label to the material and then give it the length of that remnant. And that way, if you had 4 different pieces of the same material, you could just link them all back to the same order, and you'd have an inventory so where what your remnants are.
Yeah.
And then the label, I was thinking, would be you've probably seen this in a couple places where they'll have like a randomly generated name that will be like adjective, color, animal. So you might
Mm-hmm.
have like big red panda, or angry blue dog or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just something that's human readable. And I was going to have a name for every remnant of material and then a QR code to go along with it. And so you could go to the system and go, okay, I'm looking for upset yellow platypus, walk to your rack, find upset yellow platypus, and then grab it. And then you can scan the QR code to get the material test reports and everything. That was my theory, at least.
Gotcha. Well, the reason we did it the way we did it is because having duplicate labels does not hurt anything, because when we're ordering it in, all the bars are coming in on the same order.
Yeah.
The only thing it would help is if you're trying to figure out how to divide how many bars you're going to need and what your remnant size is going to be left over. And so far, with everything that we've done, if it's big enough to need more than one bar, we're not using material that we have on the rack, and we're usually ordering that material. We usually only have one bar of any given size on the rack at a time, and we order just enough to where we only have a bar or less left over by the end of the job. And so we never have more than one bar in stock at a time unless we're going to use up more than one bar's worth of material, and then we order in more and we'll finish up what we have, switch over to the new bar or bars depending on how many it takes, and then by the time we're done we have less than one bar left that goes up on the shelf. We never have two bars unless we have active jobs that are using it up.
I probably hoard remnants way more than I should because my parts are so small. It's like I can always get another part out of the remnant. And okay, like for example, here's something that my system would work better for than your current system. I was making some parts that they were 316 stainless. The material I had on hand was like 4 inches wide. The part itself was only 4 inches wide, or was exactly 4 inches wide. And so there wasn't enough material to just chop off the end of the bar and get the full width out of it. So I had to turn the part 90 degrees and basically take two cuts out of the bar. So I cut it to like 4.5 inches, and then I, basically ripped down that material the other way. And that left me with a pretty reasonably sized remnant. But I made 3 of those parts. So I have 3 of those remnants that I could, get potentially dozens of parts out of. But now there's 3, pieces of material floating around. They would all have to be tracked.
Yes. But as long as you once we get down to a certain size, it becomes out of scope or for fixture only. And we do keep small material that we can get parts out of, but they have to be, this is the next thing we have to do, is all of our customers that do not require material certs on everything, we're going to have to get them paperwork that says, hey, you signed this, and it means that our quality manual specifies that we have to use material that is traced. But if you want to get a cheaper price and step out of our AS 9100 standard, you sign this paperwork, and then we can use any material that we have on hand that we know what it is to make your parts. And so we have several customers that do not care about all that stuff. We have to get them to sign that paperwork, and then I can use all of my remnant pieces for them. And that's what I keep it for anyways, is for them. Because all of my customers that need the material certs, I basically have to order material every time they order parts anyways, because they're ordering in volumes where I don't keep that on the shelf anyways. And I order just enough to finish the job, and I usually don't have any remnants afterwards or anything worth saving. So
I mean, that's basically my current system too, where if I have a customer that needs traceability, or if they need just material certs on it, like I don't have the systems in place currently, and I will buy a new piece of material just for that job, and then I'll throw the remnant into my little set of shelves there, and it becomes like it doesn't have a cert on it at all, even though I did at one point, because I'm just not even tracking that. The only again, the difference is so this piece of stainless I had, I bought a 12-foot bar for this job. I think I used 6 feet of it or something for that one job. That other 6 feet of material has made probably 30 or 40 jobs. And so I hoard it and don't get rid of little pieces of material that I should get rid of.
I mean, I just made some parts out of some 316 stainless steel that was like a remnant of this long, and I made 2 parts out of it like last week.
We should do, all right, Patreon extra, just for the Patreons. We're going to do a tour of our material storage and just go through all of the silly little remnants that we have.
Well, I mean, you saw my remnant pile when you visited my shop. It's still the same thing.
You've never seen my remnant pile.
Yeah. But like, I've thought about doing like for shops like you who don't care about material certs or any of that. Like if my shelf gets overloaded, just being like, all right, I'll sell this by the pound. I'll sell this by the pound to any customer or any shop that wants like small remnant pieces, and I'll just empty my shelf out into a box, and whatever it weighs per pound, that's what I'll charge.
Which is a good service for like the hobbyists.
Yeah. So
out there.
I've thought about doing that. Yeah. So
I just stick it all into my set of drawers. I'll shoot a quick video for our Patreons of some of the silly pieces of material that I'm keeping that I absolutely shouldn't be keeping.
But I have a whole bunch of, I have a whole shelf full of that little remnant stuff, but I track it down to about 3 foot. When it gets under 3 foot, that's when it becomes out of scope material. So
I have probably 4 pieces of material that are longer than 3 feet.
Yeah. See, I have a whole shelf. So I don't have any duplicates, but I have a whole bunch of different sizes of aluminum and stainless primarily. A little bit of plastic, not much, but
I'm doing more and more and more plastic lately.
Yeah. And a couple pieces of carbon, but very few carbon. I think carbon's probably the thing I have the least amount of. I think it goes aluminum or stainless. Those two kind of flip-flop between which one I have more of at any given time. And then plastic, and then steel. And then I have a bunch of random materials too. Like I have some Mokum bar left over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We just got a subtract order out of Timascus.
Yeah. I think I have a little Timascus too.
Are we going to ruin your audit if we go out of order on our podcast? We're breaking processes.
I feel like I would.
Well, just blame it on me. Josh at Leighton Machines /Subtract Manufacturing now says, for both of you, what are your least favorite materials to work with and why? Timely question. I think we're both going to have the same answer.
Least favorite material to work with and why? Honestly, I think it's going to be carbon steel.
Same. Yep. Carbon steel. 1018, A36.
Yeah.
One of those two. Hate them.
I hate them. Yeah. Not a fan.
Favorite material?
Aluminum. It's just so easy.
I like Ultim. Basically for the same reason.
I mean, aluminum, like, I don't have to worry about tooling. Like, stuff just lasts forever. And in a production environment where I can just set up and let my robot run in the background, freaking love it for that. Give me that stuff all day.
I think I've shipped 4 aluminum parts in the last 6 months.
Yeah, I think I've made 4 aluminum parts in the time of this podcast. Or 5.
I mean, probably at least.
So,
okay, Patreons. We talked about them already a little bit. They get access to, all Patreons can participate in our Q&A, whether you pay or not. It's you can join the Patreon at the free tier and still be able to ask questions, or you can pay and also still be able to ask questions. But if you pay, you get access to the Discord where you get to ask us directly. Whereas Patreon, you post them on Patreon and then Jacob puts them in our Discord. The Discord server has become a super awesome place. At this point, there's getting to be a fair number of people in there, but it still feels like a nice, small, like tight-knit community. And it's by far the most valuable thing that our Patreon offers. As of now, going forwards, our Patreon is solely for the purpose of getting us to IMTS and maybe even providing food this time while we're there. So we will be doing a meetup. I think we decided on Tuesday, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Tuesday at IMTS, TBD time, but it'll probably be like around noon, and it'll probably be at the Tormach booth.
And my wife is coming.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, I know. I asked her if she wanted to come, and she was actually interested. And I was like, "Are you going to come walk around with me and see people?" And she's like, "Well, yeah." I'm like, "Who are you, and what have you done with my wife?"
I am going to tell my wife that because that might actually convince her to come.
So, and Weston's wife might come too. I don't know. I need to talk to him tomorrow because I just confirmed with my wife over the weekend that I was like, is this something you're interested in? And she's like, yeah. I was like, okay. I would not have guessed that, but sure.
Would she come to the meetup, or is that too many people?
I don't know. We're going to find out. So,
okay.
She might.
I think if my wife does, she would come to the meetup. If she does come at all, she would come to the meetup, and then she would go like collapse in a hotel room afterwards and hide from people for the next week.
I don't know how much she's going to be hanging around or whatnot, but she's interested in coming, so she will probably be there.
So everybody, if Harrison's wife is there, talk him up as much as you can and make him look good.
Did I derail your thought?
Was there more on the Patreon?
I
read the names. That's what I do. Yeah. I was like, there's more that I do here, but I don't know what it is.
We have new Patreons.
We do have new Patreons, including, but not limited. These ones are just including and limited to Brian B. Ice Pick Method. I wonder if that's a Jimmy DeResta reference. Jake at Forefront Manufacturing. And I have known this guy for a while around the internet. It's NYDLS30. I've always pronounced that Niddles in my head. I don't know if that's what he's going for. It might be like New York Down Low Scene 30. Maybe it's his initials. I don't know. But I've always pronounced it in my head Niddles. So, Mr. Niddles 30, you can tell me if I'm being dumb or not. And our $10 a month and up Patreons are Brian B, Jacob S, Chris at CDS Plastic, John S, Alex H, Avery M, Josh at Lane Machine, Millen Y, Devin C, Alex at Mill City Roasters, Christian O, Stephen M, Horse Pulverizer Incorporated, Daniel R, James and Moultrie Made, Ryan at Strata Manufacturing, Kyle at Kursk Machine, Devin at Sinister Machine Works, Greg at Frogtown Manufacturing, James N, Ben at Prickly Pear Prototypes, Cam S, Shep at Alderson Prototyping, Jacob at Zona Precision, Jason S, All of Subtract supports our podcast on Patreon. Joshua H, Christian Z, Freaky Climber, Prescott at 1Z, 2Z Systems. This is where I need water. It's always when I get to Prescott. It's all that glass machining he does. It gets to me.
Mm-hmm.
Trey V, Alexander B, Scott at Design the Everything, Jamie at JSpec Engineering, Chris at Psych Precision, EJ at Nocturnal Welding, Chris at Thought Bomb Design, and as ever, Jake Brownson. I had another thought on there. Yeah, let's go into questions while I remember what I was saying. This one I think is definitely a Harrison question. Matic Relic EDC, thoughts on CMMs, articulating heads versus fixed. How long does it take to program apart? Best brands, best software versus brand.
So many CMM questions. Well, like I said earlier, Weston's our primary CMM guy, and we went back and forth between articulating and fixed head when we were buying our machine. We ended up with fixed head. And I think fixed head, if you're getting your first CMM, is perfectly adequate. You can get a lot of star probes, and you can get a lot of angled probes to get into really specific part specific features. Where I think the articulating head would become more beneficial is the volume of parts and the volume of different parts you're trying to get through. So if you were a job shop and you were CMMing basically every single part, and you were just trying to get things through as fast as possible and as many different types as possible, that's when I think that articulating head would really start to become something that becomes necessary. Um, Versus if you're not doing a lot of that type of stuff, like most of the stuff that we're using the CMM for is production stuff, and it's real easy to get fixturing and probes set up to where you don't have to have that articulating head. Um, and so for us, we haven't needed it. We were going to buy it with it, but we saved like 20 grand by leaving it off. And I haven't regretted that decision once. And I would probably go the same route in a job shop setting, unless you had the volume to justify that additional. Because the CMM, we only really use it maybe once or twice a week to check some production parts, depending on what we're doing. And so it sits more than any other machine in our shop. It's one of those things that like it's a necessary evil where we really need it for specific things, but then the rest of the time it doesn't do very much. And so if it was being run daily and that articulating head could justify itself, then it would be worth it. But it takes a lot for it to justify it in my book. Versus in the beginning, I just wanted it because I wanted to have all the nice things. And how long does it take to program a part? Well, I can tell you that Weston was programming these parts that I was talking about earlier in the podcast, and they had, I want to say, around 45 things that needed to be measured on that one part, and it's a pretty small part. But like there was 45 bubbles for first articles, and of those 45 measurements, whenever we get into production, I think there was like 10 of them that were critical to quality, something like that. But on your first round, you have to do everything. And for him to do everything, it took him about a day and a half to get programmed. And a lot of that is, once again, we're not using it on everything on small parts unless the customer requests it. And so far we've offered that to customers, but no one's been wanting to pay for the CMM reports because their parts haven't required it or needed it. And so they just haven't asked for it. So only our production parts have really needed the CMM so far.
So a day of programming doesn't matter because
yeah. And when we're doing that day of programming, it's first article where we're having to check every single measurement. The few times that we have used it for parts, it's been when we wanted to double check measurements that we were getting, and it's been like a hole or a feature or, something that we have a way we can measure it with traditional equipment, and we just want a better check. And for those features, an hour at most, if that. Because if you're only inspecting one or two features, it's super easy to just throw it on and get those couple features. When you have like a long list of, they want, this hole measured against datum A, perpendicular to datum B, reference to datum C, and, all this other stuff. You open up if you open up the print with the measurements and you have a hard time seeing the part because there's tolerances everywhere or because there's dimensions everywhere. That's stuff that takes a long time to program when you got that many features. But like just if I wanted to just measure a hole, 5 minutes, if that, select hole, give me that measurement, and it's no time at all. Best brands, we got a hexagon. The only reason we went hexagon was to have machine parity with the customer that we got it for, because that's what they have. And so we can share CMM programs, which Weston has been doing with some of these parts, which is probably part of the reason that guy really likes us, is because we're giving him programs that we've used, and it's helping him to check them.
Mm.
So that's part of the reason I think he likes us. But if I could choose any machine, was it Zeist? I think is probably one that I probably would have chosen if it was just for myself. Hexagon's not bad, but I believe Zeist and some of the software that they have is a little bit better. It's been a while since I've thought about the different the CMMs and software packages for them, so I'm a little bit out of touch on what makes the most sense. I think Dylan would have much better input on a question like this than me, or Weston, because I kind of have access to it through Weston. I haven't done any of the training on it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know anything about CMMs.
they're nice. I do know, I mean, and I think Dylan's touched us on this before. In some ways you can kind of make CMMs say whatever you want it to say, depending on how you programmed it. And so on these parts, because they were so small, Weston had to do a lot of learning, because he would measure things and they would show up as out of spec, and then he would change how he was measuring it and to measure it better, more accurately, and then they would show up as in spec. Or they would still be out of spec, but they would be much more accurate to what was actually out of spec and how. And that was like, to put that in perspective, the part we were measuring was about an inch long, about a half inch wide, and a quarter inch tall. And we were measuring radiuses that were like 1 millimeter radius, and you're having to use like and I think we had like a 1 millimeter ruby ball. And so there's not a whole lot of points you can touch on a 1 millimeter radius with a 1 millimeter ball. It's can be really challenging to get an accurate measurement with that. So it's stuff like that we learned a lot on how to do it the right way. I think he ended up calling Hexagon, and some of their service techs happened to be in the area and stopped by for half a day to kind of help him make sure he was doing everything the right way on those particular parts. And they were super helpful. So they were super nice.
That's good.
So, all right. Next question.
I remember what I was going to say in the Patreon shout
go
out.
For
it. Have you seen Jamie's new little clampy things he has?
I have not.
They're kind of like a pit bull alternative that doesn't have some of the weird downsides of the pit bulls.
Is it on Instagram?
Probably. It's nautical workholding, but he doesn't know how to spell nautical. So it's NOUGHTICAL.
Hang on.
WH.com.
Oh,
it's spelled not like a British person would say zero, and then ICOL, and then WH.com on the end.
Gotcha.
But they work kind of like the Modvice clamps. And he has them in a bunch of different sizes. And shout out to him for also just publishing the CAD. So that if anybody really wanted to make them and didn't want to pay for them, then you can just make them yourself. I've actually made these before he even made them. If you remember the coin fixture I had for that Kickstarter, they used the same style of clamps. But honestly, things in South Africa are so cheap to make that it's probably cheaper to have Jamie make them than to make them yourself. He also has his mechanical anchor point, which is really cool now too. So that would be, I was thinking about putting one on my micro arc that doesn't have a motor yet. Because the motor that I'm going to buy for my motorless micro arc is not going to have any sort of through bore. So I can't put like a rotary union in it. But it will go like 3,000 RPM. So that's the trade-off there. Anyway, I just thought I would shout those out because one, I appreciate that he's sharing like the actual CAD model, and two, it's a cool product.
Yeah.
So good job, Jamie. Next question. Kyle L. Kile. Is that Kyle?
Yes.
If you're not Kyle, tell me how to say it in the Discord or the Patreon, and I'll say it right next time. What coolant are you running? I just got a Sile X7. Going to be cutting aluminum 4140, 41601, S7, and Inconel 718. So basically everything that's hard plus aluminum. This is probably something I should have talked about, but I forgot to talk about.
So I'll put a link in here. This is the coolant I'm using right now.
For the people who are not in the Zencaster call.
Yeah, I know. How would you pronounce that?
Stocool.
Okay, Stocool. All right. Stocool is what I'm using, and I'm using specifically the Jet 9, which is their best seller. And it's been great, apart from the only complaint I have about it is that there's something in that coolant that was eating the caps on our robot. But update on that, UR sells chemical resistant caps for the robot.
Oh, okay.
And so we got some of those in this week. So we're going to change those out and see if that fixes the problem.
Have you ever wondered what else it's eating if it's eating the caps on the robot?
The caps on the robot are, from what we can tell, there's something that, like, it's not an uncommon problem. So,
yeah, but what if you have like bearing seals or something?
Like, I've wondered that myself. Not gonna lie, but I haven't seen anything else affected. This is the only thing that I've seen remotely affected by the coolant so far. And so I'm just gonna have to keep watching it and see. We also, like I said, we have replaced the coolant, and we were running it at like 3 times the recommended concentrate, which could have affected it as well. So, like, there's other things that we could have been doing that could have been causing that coolant to damage the caps, but we've replaced the coolant and we're going to replace the caps both and see if that fixes it.
I am trying a new coolant, or will be here shortly, probably like Monday.
What coolant is that?
So I have been running Qualichem 251C. I've had no complaints about it. It's been super stable. It cuts fine. But for the life of me, trying to buy it has been a pain. And it's either like I have to ship it in from somewhere a couple states away, and the shipping is like more than the cost of the coolant, or there was one distributor that was in Indiana, and they were great for a while. And like I could just go onto their website and I could buy it. And then their website went to, you have to have an account to buy it through the website. Like you have to log in with an account, and you can't just make an account. You have to talk to a sales guy to make an account. And I tried for like 4 weeks to get an account with these people. And they like talked to me a couple times. Up first, when I first emailed a sales guy and was like, "Hey, can I have an account?" They're like, "Yeah, sure." And then they asked for like my business information, and I sent that in. And then they just like ghosted me. And like I emailed them, I called them, couldn't get a hold of anyone, couldn't get a response. I eventually, like 3 weeks later, got a response where they asked for my business information again. And I was like, "You already have it." And then they never responded to me again. And so then I sent them an email that says, "Never mind, I'm not doing business with you anymore." And I went and I found a different coolant brand. I would have stayed with Qualichem if I could have found someone who was competent enough to sell it to me. But someone in the Discord recommended Cutting Fluids Direct, and you can just buy it online. I have to talk to a salesperson who won't talk back. So I will soon be switching to Sterling Cool 55. It was a little bit cheaper than Qualichem, and you can buy it online. And their support, talk to me. What a thought. I'm not bitter. So I asked them, I talked to the people and they recommended this one as being the closest to Qualichem 251. They actually said that it's directly compatible. Like I could just keep topping off the Qualichem with this stuff, but I don't believe them that much. So what I ended up doing was taking all the coolant out of the Haas and putting it in the Tormach to get me by a little bit longer until this batch of parts is done. And as soon as the parts is done, I'm going to clean out both machines and fill them up with the new stuff. And if I like it, I'll stick with it. If I don't like it, I'll try something else.
You'll have to let me know how it goes, what you think of it.
Yeah. Their pale cost wasn't that much cheaper than Qualichem. I think Qualichem was like, I don't know, $230 or something delivered. And this stuff was $200 delivered. But their 55-gallon drum price is much cheaper. So if I like this stuff, I'll just buy a drum for the first time. Because I've always done it with buckets. It used to be cheaper for me to buy the Qualichem stuff in 1-gallon jugs from Tormach because for everywhere else, the shipping was so much more expensive.
Interesting.
So, yeah, Sterling Cool 55 is going to be the new one I'm trying.
We got one more question for you, it looks like.
Can you do a video about key seat cutters to cut lathes, including cam workflows? You tried to find the video I referenced and couldn't find anything. Yes, I will do that at some point. I am behind on video production. I kind of owe Tormach a video for February that I haven't done yet. Sorry, Tormach. Maybe that'll be the video.
There you go. You got a video idea.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. Full radius key seat cutter ramp toolpath. That was it. That's all I did. There was not a whole lot of secret sauce there.
Oh, go ahead and finish.
Oh, and that video that we were referencing, it was not a video about that process. It was like an offhand comment from John Saunders about like something that he saw that, no, it was Dr. Phil or whatever did.
It was an Autodesk video. The one I was referencing was specifically, it was an Autodesk summit and where they had a bunch of guest lecturers. And it was the same summit where they first introduced the
container method.
Container method, and it was one of the talks in that specific lecture. And I'd have to go track down that video. It's an older one at this point, like 4 or 5 years old, probably.
Finding specific AU talks can be tough.
Yeah. I think at one point Saunders did have that talk linked on his NYC CNC page, which I think is how I found it the first time.
Yeah, which again, good luck with that. I don't know.
Unless you use Time Capsule and go back and look.
That's possible. But like someone bought that website.
Yeah, I know. I haven't looked at that website in a while to see if they changed anything.
Who was it? Like Practical Machinists or who?
No. It was
it was not
DSI.
Next Gen there. Yeah, DSI.
DSI.
I mean, they probably left all the original stuff up, but no, there's really no secret sauce. Ramp with a full radius key seat cutter. I couldn't find any other toolpath other than like the 2D contour and that style toolpath that would deal with it at all.
It looks like the NYC CNC web page might be down.
Really?
Or like gone. I think they took it down. I can't find it anymore.
Oh, invalid SSL certificate.
Interesting.
That was probably just an oversight on their part. Do we need to go send Jacob over to DSI?
Well, yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if you can still find it on the way back.
I mean, their website is there, I'm sure. It just isn't working with SSL. What happens if we go to HTTP? Nope, same thing. Anyway, that's embarrassing. Kind of like, should I? A certain job sharing website that was not us leaked ITAR's parts.
Oh, really?
And did I not send you the screenshot of that?
Oh, I think you did.
They even had it marked as ITARs. So we will be taking notes on how not to screw up for Subtract.
Yep.
To be fair, it also could have been a non-ITARs part that was marked as ITARs and like incorrectly. So maybe it was just a labeling mistake. Like it got the wrong label slapped on it instead of the part going to the wrong group of people.
That's possible.
But could be embarrassing for that company. Okay, before we get sued by someone a lot larger than us, next question.
That was all of them.
That was all of them.
So,
okay, so 5 gallons of Qualichem 251C is $235 before shipping, and I was getting shipping of like $150. So the Coolant Direct or whatever that company is, Cutting Fluids Direct, is $35 cheaper than the actual product or the Qualichem product, plus a whole bunch of shipping costs. The 55-gallon drum of Qualichem is around $2,100 versus, would I say $1,600 from the other people? So it is quite a bit cheaper. Yeah, $1,600. Or you could buy a whole IBC tote.
mm-hmm.
How much is your stuff?
It's like 1,000-ish or less for a 55-gallon drum.
Wow, that's cheap.
Yeah, it's really cheap. That's another reason we like it.
Yeah, it's only $120 for a 5-gallon pail.
This is where we're Googling on a podcast.
Okay, I really need to go to bed because I still have parts to make, and I'm not going to do them tonight, so I'm going to do them tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I got to get up super early in the morning too. So, all right.
Does your people ship?
Does my people ship?
Yeah, sorry, it's getting late. Though I guess daylight savings is working in my favor here. Like the people who ship the people who sell your coolant, do they ship?
I mean, the owner of the company has come to our shop several times. So
well, that's why I'm wondering if they ship, because if they just,
I mean, he's like dropped off coolant, so yes, they ship.
Okay,
but I mean, like he's physically come and dropped it off before.
Well, that's not shipping then; that's just delivering.
Well, yes, that's true. So that's what I don't know. They've done both. I've had the delivery truck, and I've had them bring it by himself.
Okay,
I've had both. All right, do I need? Yep, there we go. I was waiting for that.
We kind of fell apart for the last 10 minutes of the podcast.
We did. That's all right.
And maybe some of the preceding hour and 34 minutes.
All right, guys, it's that time of the podcast where we say goodbye and thank you for hanging out with us. So thanks for hanging out. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, a neighbor, and a stranger. So anyways, thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.
Taps and patience, our daily grind. In this machine shop, we'll always find joy and struggles, all intertwined. Taps and patience, one of a kind.